Okay, good morning. Welcome, everybody, to another weird, wacky, but valuable and inspiring coaching session. Thanks for tolerating my over enthusiasm. It's just, what do? You roll with what you got, right? So glad you guys could join me this morning. We're recording all of these, so Joe. I guess we get them up about the next day, right?
Yeah. Yep. Well, no, the videos will go in usually by the end of the day that they're recorded.
Yeah, great. So what's on the docket today? Well, two things. One is the Salt Lake Chamber of Commerce, and even though it's Salt Lake Chamber, they released Utah economic numbers in a dashboard to recovery, is what they're calling it, a dashboard to recovery, and it's the economic recovery piece instead of the COVID numbers. It's an economic recovery. And so they released this dashboard. So I thought it'd be really good for us to hang on to this data. I did send the link. Give me a nod if you opened it and already have looked at it. Yeah? Okay. Pretty impressive, right? First of all, Utah looks fantastic. So I thought we'd go over that and talk about the skill set of transitioning data into wisdom and understanding how to make context out of content. So that'll be the skill we'll practice, because we all get asked, right, about how the market is, and you may know some numbers or memorize some numbers. So if we don't translate it into what it means for a buyer or seller, then we don't show wisdom in that. So I've got a saying that knowledge is nice, but wisdom is why it matters. So we're going to practice that. And then kind of mission critical is we're running into a problem right now with really low inventory. Sellers are finding themselves in contracts that they now want to get out of. And why do they want to get out of a contract? Because they can't find something to purchase. So we're going to dust off a form called Subject to the Seller Acquiring New Residents, and talk about how we can inject that into presentations and discussions and counsel with sellers. So we'll talk about that. And then I think that should be a pretty good exercise this morning. What do you guys think? Like it? Okay. All right. Well, let's jump right into that dashboard. I'll share my screen and we could just share screen, and we'll go over these numbers. I caught the story on, sorry, I had the MLS pulled up. Sorry, guys. Here it is. So you go to the Salt Lake Chamber. That's the address. If you save that link, it takes you, I think, to a kind of a digital version of the data. But here it is. So let's talk about these. I think we've got a small enough group, so if you've got some opinions on this, just raise your hand and we can unmute you. We can talk about it. So first off, we go back into kind of pandemic, like pre-pandemic numbers here, and you're looking at unemployment claims. So pre-pandemic, there was only 11,000 claims. So this climbed all the way to a height of 107,000. So quite a jump, obviously. And this was by design. This is a new way to deal with economic setbacks, is to get out ahead of it. I think that was obviously, we're seeing the effects of this. So this worked. But here we go. We kind of trailing down. And we watch these numbers just continue to drop. And so we're sitting here at 35,000 claims. Now that's still 3 times where we were pre-pandemic. So there are segments of the marketplace that are struggling. And so then we get into job changes with I'm getting ahead of myself. I get excited because I want to talk about why this matters instantly. But we look at some of this data that where the jobs are being lost. and where they're up. So this will give us an indication of who's growing and who's struggling. So here we have construction way up relative to real estate. So guys, I'd probably memorize that number. Construction in the state of Utah up 7.5%. We'll round that up so we can remember it. Manufacturing's down a little bit. Trade, transportation, utilities, slightly up. So what's down? Natural resources, leisure, hospitality. I think we kind of innately knew this, but how much are they down? Well, they're down almost 17%. So I think before we put a why does this matter, let's go to this graph. This is pretty impressive, isn't it? Isn't this amazing? These numbers here. Utah is sitting at the lowest unemployment out of any state in the country. Look at our neighbors. Nevada, a lot of hospitality, down 13. California down 11.5. Idaho, very close to us, so 4.2, really strong. Arizona, is that what number is that? Oh, it's 5, right? Unemployment at 5. Oh, 5.9. Yeah, 5.9. So the West here is doing fairly well. Some of our neighboring states are, New Mexico down, and you can kind of get a look at the rest of the country. So impressive, right? I mean, look at these numbers. I guess, gosh, that's not Oklahoma. I'm getting, what is that? South Dakota? Savannah, what is that? She's looking at it like, what state is that? Leslie, what state is that? Nebraska?
I didn't know we were doing geography quiz today.
Well, yeah. What state is it for? Because they've got us beat. Travis, it's Nebraska. Emily, it's Nebraska. Will. Okay, so pretty impressive numbers here. So then we go to job change. This is a good indication that we've got some movement into sectors that are stronger. So that's coming back up to this graph that's showing that folks are finding jobs in other sectors. So that's a good indication. Job change being down, not necessarily a good thing, but here is the graph over the last years, and then we've got this major drop off. Let's stop right here before we get to the rest of the numbers. What does this mean to our buyers and sellers? Let me stop sharing for a sec. Let's have a conversation. Anybody want to weigh in on this? What can we say to those who are looking at our state, who might be coming to Salt Lake Valley or Park City or Moab, St. George, Cache Valley? They're looking at the Ogden Valley. What could we say to them about what's going on? How could we make sense of this? Anybody want to weigh in? Remember, while you're thinking about this, remember it's your wisdom that they're after. Okay, remember the analogy of the physician, that the technician takes the numbers and knows the numbers, and the physician is the one who makes sense of it all. So what guidance and counsel could we give based on this data and put some wisdom behind it? What could we say? I'll tell you what, let me get more specific. Let's do this. What does it mean to a buyer who wants to buy a property right now? What do these numbers say about their challenge in buying a property in this environment? What is it saying? Okay, thanks for the chat here. So stable economy with growth, like that. Our economy is strong. There's certainty in the economy. Good. Job security, competition is strong. Employment is stable. Thanks, Jill. Janet, there's quite a bit of competition. Really good. Utah economy is still strong and growing. Value is holding strong. Thanks, you guys. Jeff, it's county dependent. So we could, yeah, thanks, Jeff. If we broke that down into counties, which there is a graph coming up that shows some counties are down, which means some counties are really strong. For us to be pulling a 4.1 that's phenomenal given some of the counties that are down still double digits, right? So what does it mean about them being able to purchase right now? We've been hitting, I've seen a lot of competition. I remember, look, I had some really good friends of mine, you guys, who are in $1 million price range. And he said to me, this was back in April. So Salt Lake Valley, $1 million, guys, you know that should get you a pretty decent house, right? So he says, so with all this COVID going on, there must be some good deals out there. There must be some really good deals. Well, I don't want to exaggerate here, so I get this right. 6 offers later, right, Angie? We were on this journey together with these good friends of mine. They originally wrote an offer that was backup because they liked the house so much, and the primary offer closed. It was actually Lori Gee's listing. We went on to write another offer and lost that one, then wrote another and lost that one, then ended up under contract. And in due diligence, they changed their minds. They didn't like the house, but they realized they had to tie it up before they could really make a decision. And then we pulled them off that property and went to another. And then in that due diligence, they found another one that they liked better. So they pulled off of that one and they went under contract. And I'm proud to say that we passed our due diligence and financing and appraisals up here pretty quick. And it looks like we finally found the right house. We started this, I think, actually back in March, wasn't it, Ange? Was it March? So my goodness, that's been their journey. So I think we've got a lot of data to support that our buyers not only, look, we know that they're going to be under competition, but we could put some reason behind it. Not everyone's lost their job. I think there may be some folks out there who think that there's good deals because everyone's lost their job. It's really not the case. You know, we're really sitting pretty good. Does anybody know? Put in the chat. Let's see how well you follow economic data. What was the unemployment rate in Utah pre-pandemic? So we know it's 4. What was it before? Okay, good. We got a 2.8, a 3, 3.2, 2, 2.47. Okay, so we're at 4% now. I believe we were in the 2s. I think I could go find it, but I think we were 2.5 or something like that. So any of you who are right at 3 or around, 2 and something, I mean that, and there's some argument that 2% is about all you can, I mean, that's about as good as you can hope for, right? Because there's just segments that we're not going to have 100% employment, right? It reminds me of a marriage counselor who said, Will, in marriage, if you're only happy 80% of the time, that's about as good as you can get. And I heard this and I went home to my wife and I said, Tammy, a marriage counselor said, the best we could hope for is 80-20. I said, we're way better than that. And she looked at me and she says, no, that's about right. What? I mean, I got some work to do. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, the humor is free, guys. You don't have to pay for the humor. It just comes along with it, okay?
It's part of the 2 Red Bull minimum. So
yeah, it's the fat guy. It's the Chris Farley in me here, the fat guy in the little coat over here with Joe. So okay, back to data, guys. Let's continue this practice of making context out of content. I'll come down and we'll look at the rest of these graphs. So this is, Jeff was saying, break it up into counties. So there's Summit County, Jeff, yeah, it's 7.5 because there's a lot of hospitality. And we've got a lot of hospitality here in these regions. I think if we dug into, if we dug into like Grand and Moab, I mean, we're, hey, Moab, just to confirm your county, type in the chat, will you? Linda, are you Grand County? Linda, you with me? Yeah, Grand County. Okay. So Linda, is that consistent with what you're seeing in your town? Does that make sense that does that 11% translate to Moab? Do you think? Yes? Okay. Okay, good. So I think what we could do with this dashboard is it's going to be changing. This information, from what I understand, is dynamic. So it's changing as new data hits. Here's some value of construction going on in our state. Very, very strong and healthy, which is an indication that the real estate market is still going to be building more inventory for us to sell. So that's great news. I like this here. So all of our resort communities, look at the flights coming in. Look, major drop off. Of course, we knew that, but there's this trend to start to rebound. So we'll be watching that. Obviously, our airport is phenomenal. By the way, anybody on the call been out to the new airport and say John, you have? Great. Did you pick up, or were you flying out? Where did you, just put in the chat, where did you go? Were you walking around it, or was it a tour? Or can we unmute John maybe? Oh, you flew in from Montana? Okay. Yeah, go ahead, John. So you did you land in the new airport and new wings and gates and all that?
You know, they were open, and we walked around it as we landed. We didn't land in the new gate, but it's really more space for a lot of the international flyers.
Wow, that's great. I know we're all looking forward to time we can go fly to our favorite spots and then welcome guests in. And our resort communities are excited about that too. So thanks, John. Appreciate that. Okay. You know, here's the bankruptcy and this trend here is really healthy. I don't know if a lot of you guys will remember the 08, 9, 10, 11 market. We were seeing twice this, and then we also tracked foreclosures. There's virtually no foreclosures in our market at all to speak of. Very, very small, maybe not even worth counting at this point. So really strong, because everyone's got equity in those properties. They've appreciated. And of course, they would need us to liquidate if they were in a financial burden. So will we see that? It's possible that if we come up here and look at these segments that are struggling, that job loss and homeowners in this segment who do not pivot to another industry that is stronger, then we could see more bankruptcies and foreclosures relative to those segments. So I think the takeaway here, let's do this. Let me ask you about a seller. What does it say to our sellers right now, given this data? What could we, how can we light their path on this? What does it mean to our seller clients, this information? Anybody want to weigh in on that? So what does all this data mean to our seller clients? Okay, nobody? Nobody? Yeah, buyers do qualify. Good, thanks, Jill. Fran, they are in the catbird seat. Yeah, they've got a commodity right now. A lot of people, there's a lot of demand for those properties. Yeah, strong market, multiple offers. If you've ever had a seller worried about a property they weren't sure they could sell, busy street, maybe next to something location-wise, it's a challenge. Maybe an amenity or it's a split level or something. There's something that might be challenging to sell. This might be a time to put it on the market. You know, so that might be a perspective that we consider. And certainly our role right now is to manage all this demand, and that's a big part of what we're doing. Remember, this is a repetitive message I'm trying to get through to everybody. When you ask questions like why you buy and why you sell, in residential housing, that answer should be centered on what's best for the family, right? And the data only lights what the challenges are. Okay, so when we get that backwards, it seems a little odd to me when we only make a decision to purchase or sell based on market conditions. Market conditions tell us what our challenges are, but they're really not at the heart of the matter. You know, so when people say to me, well, what do you think, Will? Is this a good time? Well, I say, well, is it a good time? So, I mean, tell me what you're trying to accomplish for you and your family, and then let them talk. Well, I've got some problems with, I mean, the house doesn't this. We wish we could. If we had this, it would be, you know, and so you talk that through, and then you can just give that back. Well, is it worth solving those? If it is, then look, the economic conditions and the data only light our path on what stands in our way. Okay, what stands in our way. I think that's a better way to look at it. It puts heart back into the discussion. It recognizes what really matters to people is their family and the happiness of their family. I mean, we're asking a house to do things post-COVID that we didn't ask it to do pre-COVID. You know, I mean, that's what we're asking the house to do. The house has an enhanced role, an enhanced job. Did we work from home before? Yeah, a little, but now it could be a primary place of work. Did we study at home and have our kids do homework? Of course, but it was a small fraction. Now, I mean, given today, the news is that another 2 high schools or 3 high schools went back to online for 2 more weeks. Okay, so here we go again. The home is back on the forefront of. It's not these brand new, multi-million-dollar high schools that our kids are going into. They're going home, and if home's not a place where you can teach your kids, and that's not working, it's gonna force the change, right? So I would be patiently talking that out and recognize that that's what's driving it. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's tackle some rule and law. Part of our warm up this morning and our exercise. So here's the form. Oh wait, I've got it. Sorry, I got it here. I think this will be better. Okay. Okay, so how many of you, will you put in the chat if you've ever used this, ever in your career? Matter of fact, can everybody just weigh in? I know I don't have time to put a poll together, but will you just say yes, you've used it, or no, you haven't? And let me just count really quick. There's 30 something of us. If you have used it, okay, 1, 2, 3, keep them coming. Yeah, let's just get everybody. If you can just weigh in for a sec, but Paige, don't wreck your car. Kara says almost. Yeah, okay. So let's make sure that we understand the form first. So seller, this is a subject to them acquiring a new residence. So here's how the condition and contingency works. It's subject to the seller acquiring a new residence. Their obligation to sell the property is conditioned upon the seller signing a contract. So that's an accepted offer, right? Upon them signing a contract to purchase another residence, called the replacement, we'll call that replacement residence, by 5 p.m. on whatever day. So perhaps this is out 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is. That seems to be the guideline. Or the ballpark. Seller agrees to diligently pursue such purchase contract. So it's subject to them doing that. If they don't, here's what happens. So right to cancel. The seller is not contracted for the purchase of a replacement residence by the deadline. Buyer or seller may cancel within 3 days of the deadline. This does follow a pattern of our old Rep C, that there's a deadline, and then after that deadline, there's this period of cancellation. So you kind of get the deadline within 3. So remember that. signed. This is section 19 of the Rep C. Notices must be signed by the other party. So in the event of such cancellation, where does the earnest money go? It's released back to buyer. So, you know, no harm, no foul. Subject seller may, however, remove this condition. So what about other deadlines? Does your mind go to, what does this mean to my buyer? Like, will they do an inspection prior to this? Will they have their appraisal done prior to the replacement deadline? What do you think? Probably not. You'd love them to. You'd love them to go ahead and spend the money on an inspection on the house to remove all the obstacles, but we might be asking too much of that buyer to spend money on an inspection and appraisal if the seller has the right to cancel, right, guys? Yeah, so you're going to think that through. You got to talk that through. This is kind of a give and take on what we gain in the condition and what the costs are by having the condition. Before I pivot on to another emphasis of this, any questions on what the form is and how it works or its function or anything like that? Cindy, you're good? Okay. Anybody? Andy, you're good? Okay. Linda, you good? Okay, both Lindas nodded. That's great. Okay, if you have any questions, just I can unmute you. Susie said you just used it last week. Do you want to add to that at all, or Susie's not on video? But do you want to add to that? If you do, Susie, let me know. We'd like to hear the story. So. Yeah, Andy, good. Yeah, happy to have you consult before you use any form. So yeah. Okay, I have somebody unmuted. Who is that, Joe?
I had Susie unmuted for a second.
Oh, Susie, do you want to add in or no? Susie, you there? Okay, next time. Okay, so let's talk about, you guys have heard me say this before, so I'm just going to re-emphasize this. I think the forms, okay, I think the forms are a way for you to show, in capital letters, show the complexity of the business and the transactions and your proficiency in it, okay? It's a way to show that. So we're guilty of making it look too simple and too easy. We do this to ourselves. We're kind of our own worst enemies here. We just say, oh, that's no problem. And we just fill out an agreement. And when we do that, we become more transactionally based. Instead of having a relationship-centered transaction where within the relationship, there's a demand for high performance, we seem to minimize ourselves. So don't miss the opportunity when you're talking to sellers about a strategy. How do we go from where you are today to new home? Is the new home identified? Not yet. We saw a house we kind of liked. Okay, should we sell first or should we go write an offer first? If we go write an offer first, what forms would I be looking at? We'd be looking at subject to the sale of buyer's property, wouldn't we? And how is that received in this market? Not so good. So yeah, we kind of prefer to get your home sold first. And ideally, if we could wave our magic wand, we'd want to get our home sold first. But when we do that, if we don't have a place to go, could that be a challenge? So instead of just doing what I just did, slow down and start showing how this all comes together. Grab that Rep C, grab the subject to sale of buyer's property, explain what it is, turn it around and say, what if we got this offer on your property? How would we look at it? Then show them this subject to seller acquiring a new residence. And now this is a great place to start asking some questions like, what happens if we sell your property and we don't have a place to go? and then let them answer. I mean, are we still going to close? And if they said absolutely not, we not want to close, then we need to use the subject to seller acquiring new residents, right? And that's where we would pull that in. If they say, oh, you know what, we'll go live with my parents, or we'll go live in Angie's basement because it's got an amazing theater and a new fireplace, and it's just so comfy, and it's got 1,100 watts of subwoofer in the theater, all which is true, by the way. Sorry, Ange, I didn't. I was supposed to keep that, I guess, to myself, that I could go stay there anytime. But anyway, if those answers to those questions will light your path, and then you get an opportunity to show your proficiency when you're pointing to these forms, you know, and you're using them as a visual presentation. Remember the pivot is when someone says, what would we do if we sell our property and we don't have a place to go? I would say that's a really good question. You know what I think we should take a look at? Why don't we take a look at one of the clauses that goes along with the purchase agreement that might help us with that? And I would open this up, pivot to it, show them this, turn it upside down, and march them through it. This is one option that we may think of to protect you contractually, and something that we could consider. And then we could debate it. And when we do that, that'll start to light our path on what our seller may choose to do and what's best for them. Okay. I think that's a lot more wisdom than just saying, well, you know, here's the simple answer. Okay. I think we got to pause and show them the complexity. Okay. Yeah, Janet, she has a waterfall too. Waterfall, and yeah, I mean, talk about how to sleep. If you turn that thing on, man, it's cozy. And you're going to have us all over. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments on these two things? So data, making context out of the content, and how to use the subject to seller acquiring new residents. Comments, questions, open mic time. Anybody?
Will, can I make a comment here?
Yeah, please.
I would say that probably if you can ask yourself, do I truly understand what these statistics actually mean? And if you think you got it right, make an appointment with a friend or somebody else in the brokerage and see if your interpretation of that data and the way you explain it is how they see it. Because a lot of times we get confident that, oh, I know what that means, right? We make comments about employment rates, we make comments about, you know, mortgage rates, things like that. But are we really hitting what that data actually means for the everyday seller or buyer? Because if you can't explain it to yourself succinctly, and you can't explain it to somebody in the real estate agency succinctly, and then you got to go to talk to somebody who's not an agent and see if they understand the way you interpret the data. Unless you've done those things, that's a good self-check, right, Will? Like, do I really truly understand what it is that this data is showing me? Because a lot of times we can make the assumption that, yeah, I know what that means, but can you explain that, you know, in an elevator, you know, a 30-second elevator ride to somebody who says, oh, I see your badge, you know, so how's the market? And can you spit that out in a way that is short and tight and makes a lot of sense to somebody? Because that's how you show the mastery over it, right?
Yeah, very good. I love the rehearsal with each other and practicing that. You don't want that practice to be with the client when everything's on the line. So it's really good to team up and we call it role play, but I think you can have a real authentic conversation with a peer about what you think the market's doing and practice that and look at data. And that's a really good point, Joe. Anybody else want to weigh in? Who's my all-stars on the call today? I'd love to hear from some of our veterans. Jill Stringham's on. Anybody want to weigh in?
Should I just start
Linda's-
unmuting people and say you guys have to start speaking on this topic now?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we should hear from Ron in the Witness Protection Program. Ron's been around for a while. Ron, what do you got to say about this?
Ron's got the light behind him, so it looks like he's trying to conceal his identity. He's like, no, it's me.
Rachel's listening in on mute. We got Linda there. Should we see if Jill Stringham wants to weigh in? Jill, you have the mic. What do you think about this whole market interpretation stuff?
There's lots of things I can do, and I might as well be having someone else make the payment.
She's on the phone.
Okay. All right. Well, it's all good. I'm going to let me give you my final tip. Well, did you guys read? Did you read my email this morning? What I said might be most important. Nod your head if you read what I said might be most important. John did. Andy did. Okay, so maybe not all of you, but some of you did. Look, I was just driving. We drove up to Logan yesterday to meet with some folks, and had a great meeting, by the way. And Tom Roney and I were talking in the car, and if you kind of pause life for just a second, just pause the whirlwind, quiet your mind, think about what's going on right now. Our agent base is doing 2 to 4 times the business in the same amount of time frame as last year, and last year was a high water mark. I just want to give a little light to the soul here. I want to remind everybody that you can do this. You can do hard things. Look, I know that there's some people on this call that are not spinning a lot of business transaction plates right now. I understand that. I understand that not everybody has all the business they want. I'm okay with that. I get that. As a whole, our Berkshire family, we're firing on all cylinders, pedal down as fast as we can go. Admins, do you know we had 87 closings in one day? You think about just cutting 8 checks, and then you think about cutting 87 to our agents in one day. Does that blow your mind, you guys? And so it's an awful lot for our staff, but it's an awful lot for our agents too. We've got 3 to 4 times the deadlines, 3 to 4 times the calls to make, 3 to 4 times the leads to generate and follow up. On top of that, we're trying to keep our sanity. And I just want to remind you that you can do it. You know, this is the part of the marathon where you read the signs. If you've ever, when you're running, you read the signs, and the signs say, you know, like, we love you, keep going, way to go, Dad, you got this. You know, and there's always a sign that says, at least your left ear doesn't hurt. And I think to myself, wait a minute. It actually, I think it does, but you know, I can't feel it very well because I can't feel my legs, and my ankles hurt and my back hurts. But you read the signs, and you watch your mentality, and you watch your attitude, and you get negative affirmations out of your head fast, and you cultivate a positive attitude, and you train yourself to do that. And you got to be careful when you start saying things like it's too much, it's too hard, or, you know, there's too much going on. I'm just reminding you, you can do it, and people need you. They need a Berkshire Hathaway agent. They need a highly trained professional to get them through this complicated real estate world, and these transactions are tough. They need the resources that you have behind you also, and you're not alone in this. There's a lot of people around you. Take one thing at a time. You know, prioritize your time. Pick the thing that's most important and just deal with that and move on. Don't try to get everything done. You know, there's something, and I find myself doing this, but you know, when you go out of town, how many of you feel like you have to get everything done before you go out of town or go on vacation? Like, you have to get it all, but you have to get everything done. No, not just things that you would have been doing if you weren't there, but you have to get everything done. Because somehow we said, if I don't get it all done, then I can't relax. So just be careful of that, because it's flawed. And you're going to find yourself never having everything all done. Okay. So be kind to yourself, watch your diet and exercise. Please don't skip over that. You need to stay healthy, because when we're stressed, the one way to get rid of stress is to exercise. And if you compound that with poor dieting, it can really be dangerous for you, because then you're not going to sleep well. And if you don't sleep well, now we're going to get sick. And we've got a real big challenge there. So I'm sorry, I don't want to sound too fatherish or too preachy. It's not my point. I'm just telling you what I tell myself. I've got a lot of spinning plates in my life, a lot like you do. It's the same for all of us, and a lot of people matter to me. And so this is how I've got through it. Is I've got to tell myself I can do it, and I can't do everything for everybody right now. I'm going to have to make some decisions on who's most important and timely today. On the one more tip, and then I think I'm going to call it, and we'll have an early release out into all the work we have to do. But on what matters most today, why don't we ask ourselves that? What matters most today? And it might not be the thing that you think it is. So, and it could be a lot of things for a lot of different people. But my mother, who's an angel in my life, what matters most today, right, Cindy? What matters most today? And it could be family, it could be children, it could be kids, it could be a simple, loving, kind word said to somebody. That could be the most important day. But my loving mother had a really good habit. I don't know if this is too much information, but I'm transparent. My wife hates it when I tell this story. But she would tuck me in as a teenager. She would tuck me in. And my wife goes, "That's just nuts. You're 18 years old. You were 20 years old and she's still tucking you in." And I'm like, well, yeah, what's wrong with that? But she would always say what mattered most today. And it was such a great inventory. And then I find myself kind of pointing to things that it wasn't the thing that I was worried about doing. It was something else. So, yes, John, now Tammy tucks me. Honey, will you tuck me in? Will you just ask me, how my day was? But it's good parenting. I think it's good friendship too. What did you do that really mattered most? One of the coaches I like Brian Buffini's emphasis on relationship. What matters most is often just going to see someone, and relationships matter and things like that. And so when you're talking about how you reach out to someone, how you're handling your leads, keep heart at the center of it, relationships at the center of it, and ask yourself what matters most today. And I hope you do that thing. And because that fulfillment back to you, it's energy in the tank, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and put a bow on this. I love you all. I'm proud of what you stand for and what you're trying to become. Keep it up. Positive affirmations. Yes, I can do this. I'm growing. I'm learning. I'm getting better at this. People need my help. I'm going to go find them, and I'm going to leverage my love for them into my study, and then take my study and my professionalism to solve their problems and help them have a better life and a better situation with the home they're in. So without any more rambling on, guys, have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining the coaching this morning. Hang on to that link. It will change. We'll talk about that data in the future. Continue to master your forms as well. So I hope you got a lot out of this. As always, if you want to hit me on the chat with one takeaway today, that always helps me to know where we're hitting the bullseye. So put one takeaway in the chat, and then when you're done with that, go out there and help somebody, okay? So we'll keep it open until you answer the takeaway question. Your one takeaway from today. Okay, love you guys, and I'll see you soon, right? Joe, you can stop recording.